In the world of Tesla, I'm mostly excited about finally seeing that hands-on video on the new refreshed Tesla Model Y. But for now, we're getting brand new sightings literally every day, but only if you actually know where to find them, for which we're still actually learning new and exciting snippets about some of the more elusive features about the refreshed Tesla Model Y. For example, a small but minor shift has been made to the tyres. From this screenshot, it looks like the release candidate for the Tesla Model Ys from Giga Shanghai looked to have elected to bolt on Michelin Pilot Sport EVs over the Hankook Ventus S1 Evo 3s, just like I currently have for my current Tesla Model Y. So what's the difference then, Adam? To most people, they probably won't notice the difference. Both are summer tyres and seem to have the same/similar acoustic foam technology within the tyre to reduce rolling noise, so the difference is probably minor and not night and day, but an interesting shift from Hankook to Michelin for the Model Y, and that makes me wonder why. I recall the Model 3s using Michelin Pilot Sport 4s before on the 18-inch rims, so Tesla aren't a stranger to utilising different tyre manufacturers. So if you fancy nerding out on some of these new finer details about the new Tesla Model Y, there's actually quite a bit out there if you know where to look. Thankfully, I've done the research and collated it into a small and concise video. Therefore, if you're interested in getting the scoop, appreciate if you could just like the video, subscribe if you haven't already. Let's get straight into it. Okay, let's talk about some of the quirky features from the new front end. And I mean, the front end has admittedly divided opinions, but not so much as the rear of the vehicle, for which I'll get into in just a second. These brand new close-up shots reveal something rather fascinating to me, and the rear has done something very similar too. And I bet you haven't noticed this killer detail. If you look at the front lip of the bottom of the front bumper, this is now the same black plastic trim that is currently wrapped around the wheel arches. So why is that so fascinating, Adam? Well, if you have a minor bump, even into a plant pot of something of that description, at present in this area that is currently painted. Therefore, with this now being a plastic trim, this is then going to dramatically speed up repairability, and the need to get the area resprayed is now just pretty much mitigated. Some could even say it's splash proof if you're feeling very brave. In my own experience though, my Model 3 was swiped across whilst parked, and unfortunately for me, the whole bumper actually took the impact, and part of the damage was actually in this very same location, and this had to be resprayed. But installing this new trim would have been a lot quicker and probably cheaper on the labour side too. It's a small but minor detail that in the long run could actually play in your favour. Even on the light bar, we had already seen/worked out that there was some intentional separation gaps in the light bar. And at first, this again raised some eyebrows as to why Tesla had actually opted for this design over the design found in, say, the Cybertruck that had no separations at all. And after some time, the clever folks at X had actually interpreted the design to be entirely intentional for maintenance and repairability in mind again. But importantly for you as a customer, there should be some cost savings should you need a replacement. So hypothetically, if an indicator stops working, you only need to replace one of the corner lights rather than the whole light bar. And whilst the look of the single flame light bar would arguably look better, for a lower cost vehicle in particular, it's probably counterproductive to throw away the remainder of the light bar together with the replacement costs of the whole light bar would then be 3 times as much for the consumer. For me, the pros behind the decision really just outweighs that enhanced visual look that they could have had. One last thing on the front end, I'm pleased to say that there continues to be more and more images confirming the front bumper camera, for which those that do recall the introduction of the Model 3 refresh, the front bumper camera does look to have made it further into production vehicles than the refresh Model 3 did. Based on these latest images, I'd be very surprised if they actually backtrack on that front bumper camera. Moving on to the new wheel selections, we have a host of new screenshots that show the brand new 20-inch Helix wheels, but it's not just the 20-inch wheels that I found new information on. No, I actually found a new design of the 19-inch Aero wheels that look akin to a blade of maybe a desktop fan. Whilst we don't have a clean shot of the alloy wheels on the Tesla Model Y that are underneath those aero covers, we can start to actually see an outline of what actually represents the aero cover and what actually looks like the fresh sets of black alloys underneath that aero cover. And I mean, I'll actually put an image on screen as to what I think that is going to be underneath these alloys or something similar that I expect to maybe compare to the aero covers on and off. For which, if it's true, that should be a pretty fine error cover off alternative. That alloy design really needs to be intimidatingly good for no other reason other than just making a car more enticing on the road, even if that means just sacrificing a little bit of range. Moving on to arguably one of the biggest and most requested features on the upgraded Tesla Model Y, this being the suspension setup of the Model Y. And whilst we don't have any hands-on footage just yet, what we do have is footage of the vehicles on the trailer heading over some pretty big bumps. But what do we think of this footage so far? And whilst this is not entirely representable, it does look rather soft on impact. So much so I do wonder how much of a smooth operator this will be when we finally do get our hands on it. Moving on to the rear, for which, if I'm honest, has been one of my least favourite parts of the upgrade, but the more I actually see the real life shots rather than the renders, the better that I actually think it looks. And I mean, if you get the angle right, that spoiler section, it has serious underboob that I just never really saw or appreciated until I saw these screenshots. That light bar has some tilt that I didn't quite notice from the renders, but probably the most underappreciated change of the rear, apart from that rear diffuser that flows right into the boot entry, is the new rear design itself. Similar to the front end, it appears that they now have segmented the spoiler, the panel on the boot itself, and the roof section where the boot struts live. And you could say that there's also rear corners that make panels say 4 and 5 here. Again, similar to the design approach of the front end when it comes to repairability and cost, with the segmentation it should be easier to isolate damage and replacements to these segmented parts rather than just two larger pieces as it is today. Yes, I know this feature isn't going to sell cars exactly, but I'm pretty sure you'd appreciate it more should you ever need a repair or two on the rear end of your vehicle. The interior, whilst we haven't had as many leaks as I would like to share, these screenshots do reconfirm the new single indicator stalk setup, so no one has an excuse not to indicate properly around roundabouts now. The new gear shift stalk is definitely not there and reconfirms the suspicions of just a single stalk approach this time round. If you do take a look at the seats, you can also see that the perforations that are on the seat cushion only, and they do not actually extend into the side bolsters. Final point on the interior, we can also see a little bit more on that dash and a double stitching that I discussed in one of my prior videos. It looks more like that vegan leather found around the wireless charging mat, however the quality of the image isn't great enough to actually determine what it is. Lastly, before I move on to the conclusion, I want to talk about the referral bonus. If you want it on the launch series for Tesla Model Y, if you do follow a Tesla referral link like mine in the video description, at present in multiple jurisdictions that are selling this new Tesla Model Y, they are highlighting that the bonus excludes the launch series and it's only available on current Tesla Model Ys, as I had been predicting for quite some time. And if you're wondering if you should go with the existing Tesla Model Y instead, I'll actually pop a link direct to my legacy versus refresh Tesla Model Y comparison to help you decide. It should be on the top of the screen now. I don't anticipate that the upgraded Tesla Model Y will be rushed into the referral program anytime soon. However, it will probably be added on once Tesla finally have supply ramped up. Therefore, this could be very much months in the waiting if you want a couple of £100 or bucks, dollars, whatever you want to call it, knocked off the top of the purchase price. So to conclude, this Tesla Model Y refresh is expected to be in customers' hands within just a few weeks in China, with rumours that the sale announcement for US customers is pretty much imminent. I mean, that must also mean for us Brits and Europeans can finally reserve our very own refresh Tesla Model Ys, right? In the meantime, with each given week, we're understandably learning some of the design choices that Tesla have made, and we can be damn right sure that there's probably a whole host of upgrades underneath the surface that we can't see that's just waiting to be established. So there we have it. Are you ready to put your name down and reserve a refreshed Tesla Model Y? If you're not impressed, I'd also be very interested in understanding what your hesitations are and why. If you've learned something new this week about the refresh, let me and the rest of us know in the comment section below. Don't forget to check out the links and discounts in the video description. You folks have been great, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.